Also in experiment 2, you're going to be doing something that's a little bit different than what the book tells you to do. So in part of experiment 2, you're going to need to evaporate off an organic solvent. And since organic solvents, for the most part, are not something that's extremely environmentally friendly to let into the atmosphere, instead of just evaporating off that organic solvent, we're going to catch it and collect it to dispose of it safely. The process that we're going to be using is basically the setup for an organic process called distillation, which is separating things based on boiling points. But we're going to be using it just to remove an organic solvent, dichloromethane, with a boiling point of about 35 degrees Celsius from a solid, an organic solid, which has a boiling point well into the hundreds. So we are going to be separating things based on boiling point, but for our purposes this is just a way to get rid of some organic solvent. So in starting this process, you can also look online on the PDF for the online lecture. You'll see a diagram that looks like this and goes through all the pieces that you're going to be seeing live here in this video, so refer to that also. The pieces that you're going to need are a hot plate with a 600 milliliter beaker on top. That's going to be warmed to create a warm water, not a boiling water bath, but just warm. And then you're also going to need 2 water hoses, a 3-way adapter, a little black rubber stopper, a distilling column, that rounded piece over there, which is going to be a community item, your actual material that you're trying to get the organic solvent off of in the 100 ml round bottom flask. Then over there, it's kind of tough to see, you've got a smaller 150 ml beaker inside of a larger beaker that's got ice cold water in it. We're going to use that to collect the solvent we're trying to remove. And then also we're going to be using some of these clamps to make sure that we got this whole thing secured down tight. Make sure you have 2 ring stands in place, and here's how we'll get it started. Alright, so to start this solvent removal or distillation, I've got our round bottom flask that has the organic solvent and the compound that we're trying to get inside that solvent. And then it's placed down inside the water bath. Now be careful, don't warm this up yet, because if you start warming it up, that organic solvent's just going to go right out the hood. So wait until you start assembling things to turn on the warm water bath. So on top of that goes the 3-way adapter. 3-way adapter can be clamped using one of the blue clamps. And then on top of the 3-way adapter, since we don't want any of that vapor escaping, you can put a stopper. On the side, you're going to want to affix the distilling column and make sure that distilling column is not only clamped with one of the blue clamps, but also you've got one of these metal clamps holding it up. So now I've affixed the distilling column, and the final few steps are adding the rounded spout and then making sure that's over your beaker inside the ice cold water so that you can collect that solvent. So that's the basic setup, except that we need to add some rubber hoses for the water. So it's really important that when you add this hose, that the hose connected to the bottom end goes to the water outlet. So water is going to come in through the bottom and it's going to go out to the drain from the top. So into the bottom and then out to the drain from the top. So that's it. So once you've got the apparatus set up, you've got the hoses connected, water coming in, water going out, you can start heating up your warm water bath, just warm, not boiling. And then you can turn on your water You don't want the water to fly through the column extremely fast. You can see the water filling up the column. So if you have a flow of water about that level, that should be more than sufficient to keep the column cool. So eventually, once you've started heating your organic solvent, some of that will start to drip over and collect into your beaker. And then once you've distilled off all the solvent left behind in your round bottom flask, there should be a little bit of your white solid. You don't need to heat that all the way down to dry, but just make sure that most of that organic solvent's gone before you disassemble this apparatus. I hope the removal of organic solvent worked well for you. It is something that we do in this lab just to be a little bit more environmentally friendly. You could just let it go straight out the hood, but then eventually that dichloromethane vapor gets up into the handling system and after processing is eventually released. So this is something that takes a little bit more work, but in the long run it's environmentally worth the effort. Hope you guys do all an experiment too, and I'll see you in the lab.